Let's explore these mysteries together in today's video. The origins of the pyramid. Mine. At Egypt's ancient temple of Edfu, stone inscriptions tell a story of civilization's beginnings, one whose origins lie so distant that many modern scholars find it difficult to even imagine. According to these engravings, civilization did not begin in Africa, but instead came from a faraway region to the south, a place that, today, may correspond to Antarctica. In these ancient texts, it is called the Island of the Primeval Ones. Regarded as the source of all knowledge and the site of the world's very first monumental works, ushering in the order of the cosmos, legend describes this first island as having risen up from the eternal lake at the hands of the gods. Upon it, 3 communities coexisted: the builders, who were responsible for raising great structures, the sages, who preserved knowledge and memory, and the Shu, a group associated with water, whose true nature would remain a mystery to later generations. Each group held its own distinct role, maintaining the delicate balance of the primeval island. The texts record the arrival of gods from the sky. They brought wisdom, energy, and the very first blueprints for sacred architecture, the prototypes of the pyramids that would one day appear around the world. The ancients believed these designs became the template for every pyramid across all continents. When their task was done, some of these gods returned to the sky aboard a craft known as the Great Bird. This description inevitably conjures up images of vehicles far beyond anything found in ancient technology. Not all the gods departed. Some remained with the island's inhabitants, but that balance was soon shattered by the appearance of an opposing force, a serpent-shaped entity. The carvings tell of a battle between the falcon god and this serpent enemy, who is also called the Great Leaper, and was seen both on Earth and in the sky. As a result of their clash, darkness fell across the heavens, and a string of natural disasters, floods and earthquakes swallowed the island whole. After that catastrophe, the surviving gods and groups scattered to distant lands across the world. All traces of the Island of the Primeval Ones and its first monumental structures were buried under ice, leaving only legends and the inscriptions at Edfu Temple behind. Some researchers today have suggested that Antarctica might be the lost remains of this primeval island, pointing to strange structures beneath the thick ice and pyramid-like features detected in various surveys. If the theory that Antarctica once served as the cradle of human knowledge turns out to be true, it might offer a unified explanation for the simultaneous appearance of pyramids in ancient civilizations and the rapid early development of humankind. Yet, until the secrets beneath the eternal ice are finally revealed, the story of the Island of the Primeval Ones remains suspended somewhere between archaeology, legend, and the boldest ideas of modern science. The story of the serpent in the Garden of Eden. The Bible tells us that after creating Adam and Eve, God placed them in a garden filled with every kind of tree and abundant fruit. However, they were given a single command not to touch the tree of the knowledge of good and evil that stood at the very center of the garden. In this setting, a creature appeared described as a serpent that used words to persuade Eve to taste the forbidden fruit. Adam followed her lead, and the result was that both became aware of their own nakedness. This realization led to their expulsion from the Garden of Eden and marked the beginning of a hard and toilsome life for humankind. If we analyze the original Hebrew text, the word used for serpent is nahash. When translated into English or other languages, nahash is typically rendered as serpent, but the word itself carries far more complex layers of meaning. Beyond the common sense of a snake, nahash can also refer to large reptiles or serve as a symbol for dragons or water monsters. This diversity reflects the mindset of ancient Near Eastern cultures, where the boundaries between real animals and religious symbols were often blurred. One remarkable detail is that the entire book of Genesis never actually states that the serpent was a manifestation of Satan. The view that equates the serpent with the devil emerged only much later in Jewish and Christian theology. Originally, the Hebrew word Satan simply meant adversary or opponent, rather than being the personal name of an evil entity. Only after the Babylonian exile did the concept of Satan as the absolute enemy of God become firmly established. The link between the serpent and Satan became especially influential through theological interpretations and medieval Christian tradition, a time when doctrines about the devil became widespread and shaped society's thinking. Through centuries of translation and the spread of the Bible into Greek, Latin, and then English, the meaning of the serpent in the original story shifted dramatically. Translators tended to add elements of evil or simplify the layers of symbolism. Later, works of art and sermons reinforced the serpent's image as an embodiment of the devil, while also shaping a negative perception of Eve's role in the history of Western theology. On a symbolic level, the serpent is not merely an animal but carries meanings of knowledge, temptation, curiosity, and the desire to push beyond limitations. Many scholars see the serpent as a metaphor for the tension between knowledge and power, or between free will and divine order. As the story was told, translated, and interpreted over generations, its meanings continued to change according to each era's cultural and social context, leading to differing perceptions of what the story truly represents. In this way, the story of the serpent in the Garden of Eden reflects the intersection of ancient myth, linguistic development, religious interpretation, and centuries of social transformation. The shift of the serpent's image from a multi-layered symbol to an embodiment of Satan is the product of a long process of reinterpretation, revealing changes in religious thinking and human history itself. The Hollow Earth legend. In the long history of speculation about the origins of life and possible hidden civilizations beneath the earth, the legend of Agartha has always held a special place in the human imagination. Stories of Agartha typically describe it as a center of wisdom, technology, and spirituality. Many legends claim that a vast network of tunnels connects the continents, with Antarctica and the Himalayas regarded as the two main gateways into this underground world. In the east, ancient texts speak of Shambhala as a legendary kingdom where the enlightened gather. However, since the late 19th century, tales of Agartha began to spread in the West thanks to the writings of mystics such as Alexandre Saint-Yves d'Alvedre and Ferdinand Ossendowski. According to their accounts, Agartha is a civilization that exists independently beneath the surface of the earth, far surpassing modern humanity in many ways. It is said to be ruled by a wise king, with inhabitants living in harmony and holding knowledge beyond the reach of humankind. They are rumored to possess flying vehicles that need no fuel and maintain libraries filled with ancient wisdom. Modern theories about the entrance to Agartha in Antarctica arose alongside early 20th century expeditions. In particular, the 1947 flight of Admiral Richard Byrd is often cited as a turning point. According to legend, Byrd's personal diary describes how his aircraft's instruments malfunctioned over Antarctica, and he witnessed patches of green forest amid the frozen landscape. Some versions of the story claim that Byrd encountered strange beings calling themselves the Agarthans, who warned him about the dangers of nuclear war and the instability on the Earth's surface. Although this story is widely regarded as fiction, it continues to fuel conspiracy theories about prehistoric civilizations, secret bases, or even Nazi connections. Supporters of the Hollow Earth theory also point to ancient myths from Northern Europe and other cultures, which include beliefs in pathways leading underground, such as Asgard or Sheol. Some modern theories suggest that the Nazis once surveyed the polar regions searching for the entrance to Agartha, or that China conducted operations in Tibet believing the area concealed one of these secret gateways. Despite such speculation, mainstream science has thoroughly rejected the possibility of a subterranean kingdom. Geological research and core sampling show that the Earth is made up of multiple layers of solid material, magma, and a constantly moving metallic core. There are no empty cavities large enough to house or sustain an underground civilization as described in legend. Most unusual phenomena in Antarctica have been explained by natural, physical, and geological processes. Despite the lack of scientific evidence, the legend of Agartha and the Hollow Earth theory continue to enrich the world's storehouse of myth, reflecting our longing to break through the limits of what we know about the planet we call home. Straddling the line between knowledge and imagination, Antarctica remains a powerful symbol of the world's unresolved mysteries. The fearsome angels. In today's popular culture, angels are often imagined as human figures with white wings and gentle faces. However, the texts of the Old Testament describe angels in ways that are completely different. When comparing the classic sources, readers quickly see that biblical angels are supernatural entities with complex, sometimes unsettling forms more likely to inspire awe or even fear than peace. The Old Testament records many kinds of angels with bizarre features far removed from familiar depictions. The cherubim, for example, do not appear as humans but have 4 faces: a human face, a lion, an ox, and an eagle. Each cherub has 4 wings, feet like those of a calf, and a shining, bronze-like color. When they move, they do not turn their heads but go in any direction while their bodies remain still. Cherubim were mainly tasked with guarding sacred places, such as the gate to the Garden of Eden. Seraphim are another class of angels with strikingly different appearances. According to the book of Isaiah, seraphim have 6 wings, 2 covering their faces, 2 covering their feet, and 2 for flying. While the text does not describe the seraphim in detail, the division of their wings is meant to symbolize reverence and transcendent power beyond ordinary understanding. It is worth noting that not all angels in the Bible have wings. The Hebrew term malach, meaning messenger, refers to invisible envoys who appeared as ordinary people without any extraordinary features. The idea of winged angels may have originated from Egyptian religious symbolism, where gods were often depicted with wings to signify superior power. Details such as multiple faces, animal-like features, or dazzling light reflect the influence of syncretism between ancient cultures like Mesopotamia, Egypt, and Israel. These forms were symbolic of absolute power and the ability to be present everywhere at once, while also expressing the deep fear that people felt in the presence of the supernatural. This blend of power and fear is what cemented the angels' unique place in the collective consciousness. From a historical and scientific perspective, the fearsome descriptions of angels result from a process of spiritual development and the integration of ancient cultural symbols into the Jewish-Christian belief system. The mythology of angels not only reflects human anxieties about the universe, but also shapes a worldview in which humans are only a small part of a vast and mysterious cosmic order. Balaam the ambiguous prophet. Balaam is a figure who appears in the Old Testament in a unique role. He was not an Israelite, yet he could communicate directly with God. In the book of Numbers, Balaam is described as a prophet living in Pethor near the Euphrates, famous for his prophetic powers and frequently sought out by local rulers. When the Israelites were migrating toward the Promised Land, Balak, king of Moab, invited Balaam to curse the Israelites in hopes of protecting his kingdom from invasion. Though offered rich gifts, Balaam at first refused Balak's request because God had told him directly not to curse Israel. Yet when Balak continued to press him, Balaam agreed to go. On the journey, he experienced a series of strange events, most notably a scene where Balaam conversed with a talking donkey, a detail that reflects both the fantastic and symbolic language of the Bible. When facing the Israelites, Balaam was prepared to curse them, but could only speak blessings, overcome by the power of God. Later, Balaam's image took on a negative direction. Books like Revelation and many traditional commentaries blamed Balaam for causing Israel's moral downfall, arguing that he advised the king of Moab to use pagan rituals and illicit relationships to tempt the Israelites into sin. The result was a deadly plague, seen as God's harsh punishment for the community's decline in virtue. Balaam's story clearly shows how interpretations of religious figures change over time. He was once a prophet who could truly converse with the divine, but gradually became a symbol of the misuse of knowledge and power for personal gain, bringing harm to the community. Balaam's character highlights the traditional religious view of the dangers of compromising ethics for power, material gain, or social pressure. His story is a testament to the complexity of biblical characters. It prompts reflection on the relationship between individual free will, spiritual power, and social responsibility, while emphasizing the consequences of using one's abilities without restraint to the detriment of the common good. Nanotechnology in ancient Rome. The discovery of the Lycurgus cup has opened a new chapter in how we assess the technical capabilities of ancient Rome. The Lycurgus cup is one of the few surviving ancient artifacts that demonstrates material craftsmanship at the microscopic level, even though its makers had no conscious awareness of the science behind the phenomenon they created. This cup is over 1,600 years old and made of glass, yet it possesses a strange ability to change color. When light shines directly onto its surface, it appears jade green, but when illuminated from behind, it transforms into a ruby red glow. This effect cannot be explained by traditional coloring methods. Rather, it is the result of mixing gold and silver nanoparticles into molten glass. Each metal particle measures just a few dozen nanometers, far smaller than the naked eye can see. As light passes through, these nanoparticles disrupt electron movement, creating what is known as the plasmon effect, a phenomenon that is a hallmark of modern nanotechnology. The fact that Roman artisans could achieve this effect demonstrates they refined their manufacturing process to the point of controlling material distribution at an extremely small scale. Although they had no concept of nano as we understand it today, the practical application of nanomaterials arose unconsciously within Roman material culture. Fragments of glassware from the same era also reveal traces of metallic nanoparticles, suggesting that this was not an isolated incident, but may have been a more widespread traditional technique than we once thought. From the standpoint of materials science, the Lycurgus cup is a prime example of the intersection between art and pre-scientific knowledge. The use of this unique optical effect shows that the Romans closely observed how materials reacted to light, and from there developed sophisticated manufacturing techniques. Today, scientists employ the very same plasmon effect in the development of biological sensors and many other high-tech applications. Through the Lycurgus cup, we realize that technological progress has never been strictly linear, and that some ancient achievements went far beyond what we might have imagined, laying foundations for modern science that sometimes took centuries to fully understand. This not only deepens our perspective on the past, but also points to new research directions in materials, science, and nanotechnology today. The true role of rats in the European plague. When people think of the plague that shook Europe in the 14th century, the image of rats slipping through city streets often becomes the most haunting symbol of the Black Death's origins. Yet, recent discoveries have forced researchers to reconsider this link in light of new evidence, placing the role of rats in a much broader context than history has typically described. Through climate and archaeological analyses, scientists have determined that medieval Europe's climate was not actually favorable for large, persistent rat populations. The proliferation and spread of rats is highly dependent on stable environments, abundant water, and food supplies, yet the early years of the plague saw extended cold spells that sharply reduced opportunities for rodent booms. Evidence from ancient DNA and historical surveys of disease point to a different pathway for the plague, originating from Central Asia and moving along the bustling trade networks of the medieval world. The movement of merchants, goods, camels, horses, and even insects such as fleas created infectious corridors stretching from the Mongolian steppes through Russia and the Middle East, all the way into Mediterranean ports. The discovery of Yersinia pestis strains matching those in both Asia and the hardest-hit regions of Europe confirms that the spread was not limited to local outbreaks, but was part of a chain of global events. The convergence of many factors, transcontinental trade, migrating populations, and cultural exchanges turned medieval Europe into the final destination of a pandemic that began in the distant East. In hindsight, the Black Death was not merely the product of rats and fleas in European cities, but rather the outcome of an early age of globalization. Its consequences went far beyond anything medieval society could have imagined, bringing sweeping changes in population, economy, and society. These new studies not only revise our understanding of the role of disease-carrying animals, but also reveal the complex interconnections between civilizations through trade networks, gradually redrawing the map of epidemiology and the history of medicine. The Black Death stands as proof of both the power and the risks that come with the relentless exchange between continents as human society widened its horizons. The earliest currency in the Levant. Recent archaeological discoveries in the Levant have yielded crucial data on the history of ancient economic development. In Israel, researchers found many small silver pieces dating back about 3,700 years, with clear signs of being cut or deliberately broken, evidence that they once served as an early form of currency and trade. Isotope analysis and elemental surveys have established that the silver did not originate locally, but was produced in distant Anatolia and then brought to the Levant via Bronze Age trade networks. This finding compels historians to adjust the timeline for the emergence of monetary systems in the ancient Middle East, which until now had held that currency only became widespread during the Iron Age, around 1200 BC. In light of new data, it appears that communities in the Levant had established intercontinental exchange and trade relationships far earlier than previously thought, rather than relying solely on barter. The circulation of silver from Anatolia to the Levant not only reveals the level of trade development, but also reflects the formation of some of the region's earliest financial and monetary networks. Silver was cut into small pieces, suitable for daily transactions, facilitating the exchange of goods and investment. This points to the existence of complex social organizations that spurred the development of the economy, culture, and even construction technology. The discovery of silver currency in the Levant also highlights a major shift in Bronze Age attitudes toward value from tangible, physical goods to the more abstract notion of money, opening a new chapter in the evolution of civilization. Those small, millennia-old silver pieces are the mark of a convergence between metallurgical technology and economics, helping to reconstruct the picture of an ancient Middle East that was dynamic and deeply integrated into the intercontinental trade currents from very early on in human history. The finger of the Apostle Thomas. Within Christian tradition, the story of the Apostle Thomas, who once doubted the resurrection of Jesus, is one of the most notable examples of humanity's confrontation with doubt and the experience of truth. According to the Bible, after Jesus was crucified and said to have risen again, Thomas alone among the apostles refused to believe it. Only when he touched Jesus' wounds with his own hand did he accept the miracle of resurrection. The act of placing a finger in the wound became a symbol of faith born from direct experience and overcoming skepticism. After this event, Thomas left Jerusalem and journeyed eastward, eventually arriving in India in AD 52. He is said to have founded many of the earliest Christian communities in the regions of Kerala and Tamil Nadu. After about 20 years of missionary work, Thomas was killed in the city of Chennai and was buried there. To this day, many Indian Christian denominations regard Thomas as their founder, and local tradition holds that they are the direct descendants of those he baptized. Yet after Thomas's death, relics associated with him, especially his bones and body parts, began a centuries-long journey across Europe. Among these, the most famous is the pointing finger of Thomas, believed to be the very finger that touched Jesus' wounds. This relic is now kept at the Basilica di Santa Croce in Rome. Other bones, including his arm and skull, are scattered among various churches in Italy and the Netherlands. The movement and division of these relics reflect the widespread medieval practice of treating relics as sacred objects, valued both for their religious significance and for the prestige and authority they brought to the religious centers that possessed them. However, the authenticity of these relics has always been disputed. Their journeys are often poorly documented, with little evidence to verify their true origins. In many cases, the bones attributed to Thomas may be symbolic or even belong to other individuals. The preservation and veneration of such relics show the human need to create tangible symbols of faith, while also highlighting the diversity of religious practices among ancient Christian communities. The story of Thomas's finger itself, from a symbol of doubt and faith to the complicated journey of the relics, carries both historical and multiple layers of social and spiritual meaning. The dispersal of the relics is not only a physical journey but also a symbolic one, helping to cement collective memory and keep the legend alive within Christian consciousness over the centuries. Prehistoric animal skin clothing. Deep within the layers of earth in a cave in central Germany, archaeologists have found precisely cut marks on the leg bones and toes of the cave bear, an animal that once dominated the forests of northern Europe hundreds of thousands of years ago. These cuts were not made for ordinary butchering. Rather, they focus on areas with little muscle, indicating a clear intent. They are the result of carefully and skillfully removing the thick hide and outer fur. Analysis shows these bones date back nearly 300,000 years to the early era of Homo sapiens, or even to older groups, such as Neanderthals or Heidelbergensis. This is compelling evidence that prehistoric humans knew how to use stone tools to process animal hides, creating the first clothing as part of their adaptation to cold environments. The Ice Age climate of Europe was harsh, with low temperatures lasting many months each year. To survive, people could not rely only on hunting and gathering. They had to invent ways to protect their bodies from the bitter cold. Bear pelts, thick and insulating, became ideal material for making cloaks, gloves, and even hoods to ward off the wind. Removing a bear hide required care. A single slip could ruin its value. This demanded high skill and a detailed understanding of animal anatomy. The use of bear skins as clothing was not just a survival technique, it reflected creative thinking, the ability to craft, and the transmission of knowledge through generations. This is among the earliest evidence that humans were not merely hunters, but were developing skills to enhance daily life, laying the groundwork for the later culture of clothing. The discovery also suggests that Neanderthals, with their intelligence and adaptability rivaling that of Homo sapiens, may have invented or adopted the practice of using animal hides for clothing, helping them survive the cold of Europe for tens of thousands of years. The arrival of clothing made from bear skins marks a turning point in human evolution. opening the door to conquering harsh new lands that once lay beyond the reach of survival. The oldest modern human jaw fossil in Europe. On the damp, cold limestone surface in eastern Spain, a fossil site discovered in the late 19th century became the focus of research for generations of European anthropologists. For decades, this small fossil jaw was attributed to Neanderthals based on its dental morphology and ancient stratigraphic layer. Most scholars believed it to be evidence of the time when Neanderthals still dominated Western Europe, before the waves of Homo sapiens migrations arrived from Africa. However, advances in micromorphological decoding techniques and modern isotope analysis have overturned this assessment. DNA testing and precise dating have confirmed that the jaw belonged to a Homo sapiens individual, with an age of up to 65,000 years. This discovery not only upends the traditional hypothesis about the timeline of Homo sapiens entering Europe, but also opens up the prospect of a period in which two different human species coexisted on the same land. The early appearance of modern humans in Spain means that Neanderthals were not simply replaced in a sweeping process. Instead, there may have been centuries of overlap, competition, and perhaps even cooperation and resource sharing between them. Modern genetics also records traces of Neanderthal genes in the human genome today, suggesting interbreeding occurred multiple times in the past. Archaeological evidence across Europe paints a complex picture. As glaciers shifted and climates changed, ancient human populations may have migrated or adapted in various ways. In new environments, Neanderthals and Homo sapiens may have hunted and gathered together, set up camps by riverbanks, and even shared tool-making techniques, creating communities with diverse forms and cultures. Some studies show technological exchange between the two species happened over thousands of years, evidenced by stone tool styles and traces of life found at mixed sites. Yet the story of Neanderthal extinction remains heavily debated. Some scholars argue that interbreeding with Homo sapiens gradually diluted the Neanderthal gene pool, while others believe competition for resources, disease, or climate change played decisive roles. Genetic research shows that the Neanderthal gene proportion in modern humans is not high, with most distinctive variants fading over time. Each new fossil discovery, such as the Spanish jaw, adds another piece to the evolutionary puzzle, expanding our understanding of how ancient human groups coexisted, interacted, and ultimately left their mark on today's generations. The discovery of the oldest Homo sapiens jaw in Europe not only changes our perspective on when modern humans arrived on the continent, but also forces us to re-evaluate the entire process of how ancient human groups formed and developed. History is no longer a straightforward succession, but a complex network of branches intersecting, intertwining, and continuously changing under the influence of nature and society. Under the light of modern science, this fossil jaw tells a new story about the origins and destiny of our species in prehistory, a time when each new find can reshape our very understanding of ourselves. Is travel to Antarctica possible? The idea that Antarctica is a forbidden land, completely off-limits to humans, actually does not reflect current international regulations. Even as the most remote and harsh continent on Earth, Antarctica continues to welcome international expeditions and researchers, and there are even special tours available for those who qualify and follow the rules. The Antarctic Treaty, signed in 1959 by more than 50 nations, established a common management mechanism for the entire continent. According to the treaty, Antarctica does not belong to any country, has no indigenous residents, and cannot be used for military purposes or weapons testing. Activities permitted here must serve science, environmental protection, and promote international cooperation. Each trip requires approval from the relevant authorities in the traveler's country of origin and must strictly adhere to safety standards and environmental protocols. Access permits to Antarctica especially emphasize ecological conservation. Every expedition team must submit a detailed plan, clearly describing their itinerary, proposed activities, and waste management strategies. Teams are strictly prohibited from bringing in pollutants or anything that could harm the native ecosystem. The entire process is closely monitored by international organizations and independent scientific agencies. Tourism to Antarctica is also organized, but only as special expedition tours. Visitors must follow every instruction from their guides, never leave designated areas, and are forbidden from collecting samples or disturbing the habitat of native wildlife and plants. Violating regulations may lead to expulsion or legal action from the respective country. The notion that Antarctica is militarized or guarded by an international military force is unfounded. Those present on the continent mainly serve in logistics, rescue, or to protect research stations, not as border patrols. Thus, access to Antarctica is not impossible. But all activities are tightly controlled to ensure the continent remains a global natural laboratory. The balance between the freedom to explore and the responsibility to conserve has helped keep Antarctica nearly pristine, playing a vital role in climate and environmental research worldwide. The Dyatlov Pass incident. The Dyatlov Pass incident is one of the greatest mysteries of the 20th century, leaving a deep question mark in the history of Ural mountain exploration. In early 1959, 9 young explorers led by Igor Dyatlov set out to cross this mountain range with the goal of surveying terrain and collecting climate data in winter. The group consisted of engineering students and experienced scientists who had previously conquered difficult routes. At first, the team maintained regular contact, kept journals, and reported to checkpoints. But when the deadline passed with no news, rescue teams were dispatched. After several days in the freezing snow, searchers found the Dyatlov group's tent on the mountainside. The tent was ripped open from the inside, with equipment and food still intact. Bare footprints, or those in socks, trailed from the tent into the forest, showing that the members had left in haste, poorly dressed against the cold. Not far from the tent, the bodies of the first 2 members were found near a tree, dressed only in underwear. 3 more bodies were scattered along the path back to the tent. When the snow melted, the remaining 4 bodies were found deeper in a snow ravine, more than a kilometer from the tent. These bodies showed strange injuries, fractured skulls, broken ribs, and some missing eyes and tongues. However, no evidence was found of external attack, strangers, or large animals. Autopsies showed most victims died from hypothermia, but the cause of the severe injuries was never explained. Some group clothing was found to have high levels of radiation, raising further suspicions of weapons testing or chemical contamination. Over the decades, many theories have been put forward: avalanche, seismic infrasound, even strange creatures or the Yeti. Mathematical models once supported the avalanche theory, but the terrain and tent location did not fully fit. Some witnesses later recalled seeing strange lights in the Ural sky the night of the incident, fueling speculation of military experiments. To this day, despite every effort by modern science, the mystery of Dyatlov Pass remains unsolved. The story haunts not only because of the bizarre deaths, but also because of the region's icy isolation, where evidence is slowly swallowed by snow, leaving behind only journals, photographs, and endless questions. The ice wall of the flat Earth theory. Among the various theories about the true shape of our planet, the flat Earth theory stands out for its vision of a massive white ice wall stretching around the edge of Antarctica. According to believers in this theory, the ice wall is not just a natural boundary, but the ultimate barrier, preventing all creatures or machines from reaching the edge of the world, which they believe is the end of every map. They often cite records from the 19th century, especially the expedition of British naval officer James Clark Ross. Ross spent months circling huge ice masses off the coast of Antarctica, but could not break through, feeling as if he had encountered an impenetrable wall. In his reports, he described endless stretches of ice, surrounded by year-round snow-capped mountains, forming a natural belt that forced ships to turn back. Many other old sources also mention strange phenomena in the area, like brilliant southern lights or relentless cold winds blowing along the ice. According to this theory, the ice wall is not a single structure but consists of segments divided by the Transantarctic Mountains, some over 3,500 meters high, interspersed with sheets of ice sliding into the sea, creating a multi-layered formation stretching for hundreds of miles. Flat Earth theorists argue that the harsh geography only reinforces the view that no one can cross this frontier. They believe that beyond the ice wall lies an unknown region, where all equipment is frozen and there are no signs of life or technology. In fact, stories about the ice wall are even linked to old records about hidden lands or legends of gateways to other worlds, boundaries separating the known order from realms where no one has ever set foot. In contrast, modern science has mapped Antarctica's terrain and climate, explaining the coastal ice shelves as the result of millions of years of snowfall accumulation and erosion by wind and unique landforms. According to geologists, the ice walls are actually oceanic ice shelves continually shaped by waves and wind, forming steep cliffs that regularly break off and drift away. Still, The allure of the Antarctic ice wall continues to captivate the imagination, especially since stories of geographical mystery and the limits of human knowledge are always compelling. Here, geological reality and legend intertwine, leaving behind one of the strangest and most debated theories about Antarctica, where ice and snow have become symbols of the boundary between what is known and what has never been seen. The medieval Christian burial. Custom of women on beds. In the history of European burial practices, the custom of bed burials emerged as a distinctive phenomenon, found mainly among noble women within the Christian societies of the Middle Ages. Archaeological discoveries in England have uncovered graves containing the intact remains of women laid to rest on beds, accompanied by valuable items such as crosses or religious artifacts. A notable case was unearthed in 2011 in the village of Trumpington, Cambridgeshire, where archaeologists excavated a grave holding the skeleton of a young woman, surrounded by a cross and objects linked to Christian rituals from the 7th century. Genetic analysis and the study of grave goods reveal that most of these women originated from continental Europe. They were not natives but migrants to England at a time when Christianity was spreading rapidly across the continent. Their roles extended beyond religious significance. They were part of a deeper political strategy by the Catholic Church, which involved propagating faith through strategic marital alliances. Historical documents often refer to these women as bride hunters. Selected from noble lineages, they were sent to peripheral lands with the aim of marrying into powerful local families who had not yet embraced Christianity. This bride hunting was not only a matter of religious idealism, but a method for the church to expand its influence and consolidate power through marriage ties. As a result, not only did the church increase its number of followers, but it also established indirect control over lands and influential local clans. The bed burial custom thus became a marker identifying these immigrant women who carried a dual mission, spreading religion and linking political economic interests. The lavish funerary rites and luxurious grave goods confirmed their special status within the church's missionary strategies. The presence of these customs also reflects the process of cultural adaptation between regions and the mutual influences shaping medieval European history. Looking back, it is clear that the deeper purpose of this burial custom was not simply to ensure a grand funeral, but to illustrate the close connection between the church and secular authority. Through the strategy of evangelism by marriage and the prominent presence of bride hunters, the church skillfully utilized the power of noble women, turning them into bridges for Christianization and the consolidation of influence across English society in this era. The death of scientist Rodney Marks. The death of Rodney Marks in Antarctica remains an unresolved mystery, sparking ongoing controversy within the international scientific community. In May 2000, this Australian astrophysicist was working at the American-run Amundsen Scott Station at the South Pole when he suddenly fell ill and died in less than 2 days. His initial symptoms were only nausea and dizziness, but his health rapidly deteriorated, and no medical intervention on site could save him. His body was then sent to New Zealand for autopsy. As Antarctica does not belong to any nation, and all legal procedures are governed by international cooperation and continental treaties, the forensic report determined the cause of death to be methanol poisoning, a chemical common in laboratories but extremely dangerous if absorbed in large amounts. The central question, however, was how methanol entered Rodney Marks's bloodstream and why no one realized it while he was alive. The incident quickly escalated beyond an ordinary medical emergency. The media and New Zealand investigators repeatedly called for greater cooperation from the United States, but all information about the activities at Amundsen Scott Station during that period was tightly controlled, and key witnesses never appeared before the independent inquiry. This fueled numerous theories, including the possibility that Rodney Marks was intentionally poisoned or that his death was related to internal conflicts or even sensitive data or research at the South Pole. Legal analysts also noted that no single country has absolute jurisdiction in Antarctica, making mysterious cases here an ongoing challenge for international law. The case of Rodney Marks became a classic example of the difficulties faced by the global community when addressing incidents outside national territories, where legal principles are limited and evidence can easily disappear into the ice. Years have passed, but the case remains open. Some journalists and private investigators still try to trace the faint leads, hoping to uncover the truth behind the scientist's sudden death. Yet in an environment where information is withheld, the death of Rodney Marks continues to be a major enigma on the Antarctic continent, where the boundaries between science, law, and mystery are constantly blurred in the cold. Cosmic particles. In the still air of Antarctica, a new physical phenomenon is challenging the familiar frameworks of modern science. High-energy cosmic rays have appeared, particles not arriving from outer space toward Earth, but instead seeming to travel up from beneath, through thick layers of rock and ice, emerging at the South Pole. Since 2016, radio wave detectors, such as NASA's special antenna arrays in Antarctica, have continuously recorded these unusual signals. The detected particles belong to the neutrino group, but their energy levels far exceed all expectations. Their trajectories seem to defy even the law of conservation of momentum in the standard model of particle physics. According to current understanding, only low-energy neutrinos can pass through Earth's crust without being absorbed, while these particles have extremely high energy, prompting researchers to question their true origin. Some astrophysicists believe the phenomenon may be a sign that a source of dark matter exists inside the Earth, a mysterious substance thought to account for most of the universe's mass, but which science has yet to observe directly. Other theories point to the possibility of sterile neutrinos, particles that interact only with gravity and not with any of the other fundamental forces, enabling them to pass through all matter without obstruction. Bolder ideas suggest these high-energy cosmic rays could be the result of collisions with other dimensions or signs of physical phenomena beyond our familiar four-dimensional space-time model. The discovery of such high-energy particles emerging from the Earth's core, rather than entering from outer space, has opened up new approaches in particle physics and cosmology. If any of the theories regarding sterile neutrinos or dark matter are confirmed, science may move closer to unraveling the fundamental mysteries of the universe's structure and origin. Yet for now, the true nature of this phenomenon remains unresolved, continuing to spark lively debate within the modern physics community. In a place where the laws of nature are constantly being tested, Antarctica once again stands as the Earth's final frontier, and perhaps the gateway to the deepest secrets of the cosmos. Mass extinction. Events and the role of radiation. About 250 million years ago, life on Earth faced a turning point that could never be reversed. The transition between the Permian and Triassic periods marked the largest extinction event ever recorded in geological history, when over 80% of land animals and plants, along with most marine life, vanished from the planet. This process did not happen in an instant, but was the outcome of many interconnected factors in a complex chain of events spanning tens of thousands of years. According to stratigraphic analysis and radioactive isotope data, a series of massive volcanic eruptions in Siberia released an enormous amount of greenhouse gases and sulfur compounds into the atmosphere. The very makeup of the atmosphere changed. SO2 and other chemicals spread into the stratosphere, destroying the ozone layer that had protected life from the sun's ultraviolet rays. The collapse of the ozone layer allowed UVB radiation to penetrate directly to the ground and ocean surface. Ultraviolet rays not only caused burns, but also prevented photosynthesis in plants and algae, severing the food chain at its lowest foundation. The result was ecosystem collapse, widespread famine, and the disappearance of large animals that could no longer find the nutrition needed to survive. The biological system lost its balance, the oceans became anoxic, and rising methane and CO2 levels caused a sudden spike in global temperatures. Beyond volcanic effects, some research also points to the role of extraterrestrial factors in this extinction event. There is evidence of meteor impacts, which increased atmospheric dust and worsened environmental collapse. Still, the solar radiation piercing through the thinned ozone layer was a driving force for broad genetic changes, acting as a double-edged sword, an agent of harsh biological selection, but also a trigger for the emergence and adaptation of new groups of organisms. The greatest significance of the Permian-Triassic extinction is that it demonstrates how factors from beyond Earth can resonate with endogenous geological processes to trigger events powerful enough to reshape the entire biosphere. These changes did not merely wipe out most life, they also laid the foundation for the rise of new species. The study of ancient radiation and chemical traces offers ways to forecast modern risks, as today's atmosphere and ecosystems continue to face threats from both natural processes and human impact. Ancient treasures and technology in the caves of Israel. The Cave of Skulls, deep within Israel's Judean desert, has long drawn attention for its arid climate, which preserves organic artifacts remarkably well. Excavations, stretching from the 1960s to the present, have yielded hundreds of valuable objects, including textiles, ropes, wood, leather, and many everyday items, offering a rich archive of the daily life and technology of ancient Middle Eastern communities. One landmark discovery is the identification of red-dyed fabric fragments, which opened a new chapter in the study of ancient chemical techniques. Rather than using plant or mineral-based dyes, some fabric samples have been shown to utilize pigments extracted from the Kermes vermilio insect, a parasite living on oak trees. The origin of this dye was established not only through microscopic analysis, but also by using high-performance liquid chromatography to identify its unique chemical signature. Extracting pigment from Kermes vermilio required meticulous collection and processing, since each insect yields only a tiny amount. That ancient people could gather, refine, and successfully apply this dye to textiles demonstrates their remarkable manufacturing skill and deep knowledge of organic chemistry in prehistoric times. Red from Kermes was more than a symbol of power or religion. It is proof of knowledge exchange among cultures along ancient trade routes. Research into the dyed fabrics from the Cave of Skulls has also helped chart the development stages of textile and dyeing technology in the Middle East, enabling scientists to date and distinguish cultural layers within the cave. Besides chemical insights, the survival of these organic artifacts shows an understanding of environmental control, material selection, and preservation methods that were in use long before written history. From these small scraps, scientists have gradually reconstructed ancient dyeing and weaving techniques, as well as the cultural and spiritual systems in which color played a role. The Cave of Skulls is not just an archaeological treasure of Israel, but stands as evidence of the parallel evolution of technology, art, and scientific thinking in an era when civilizations were still finding their place on the world's historical map. The sophisticated medical instruments of ancient Rome. Archaeological finds in England have brought to light a Roman medical kit over 2,000 years old, revealing an astonishing level of technical skill and scientific understanding among ancient physicians. The set includes items such as bronze, scalpel handles, needles, mixing spoons, and probes, all crafted with striking precision, indicating deep knowledge of anatomy and therapeutic technique. The most notable feature is the design of the scalpel handle, which allowed the blade to be replaced flexibly. The blade socket was finely engineered to ensure stability and convenience in use. This detail goes far beyond what most people believed the Romans could achieve, and to this day, many modern surgical instruments retain this basic structure. The specialized design of needles and mixing spoons also points to the accumulation of hands-on experience over many generations of practitioners. Studies of ancient Greek and Roman medical texts show that such instrument sets were widely used across the empire, from Europe to the Middle East. The spread of surgical techniques and their associated tools demonstrates the organization of broad training systems and the transmission of medical knowledge across a vast area. These advances were not confined to surgery, but extended into orthopedics, wound care, dentistry, and ophthalmology. The discovery of these refined surgical tools has forced scholars to reconsider the development of science and technology in Roman society, and has opened new avenues for studying the connection between invention and the growth of Western medicine. The Roman health system, with its ability to apply optimal techniques and tools, laid the groundwork for many modern surgical methods and stands as proof of the central role of experimental science in human history. Prehistoric stone structures in France. In central France, beneath layers of alluvium and the remnants of time, archaeologists discovered a circle of 30 large monoliths, most of them deliberately buried. Unlike the famous sites such as Stonehenge or England's megalithic monuments, this circle lay hidden underground, a relic of a Neolithic community that once lived, built, and then intentionally concealed its own creation. Most of the stone pillars had disappeared from the surface, only coming to light when archaeological work chanced upon the ancient layer beneath today's fields. Structural and stratigraphic analysis shows that building this stone circle was more than a ritual act. It required large-scale technical coordination and community organization. Each block was chosen, transported, and positioned with strict order, creating an enclosed space with a special function, possibly linked to local religion, astronomy, or seasonal rites. The uniformity of construction, along with surviving stone tools, reflects the advanced development of these inhabitants at a time when Europe was still transitioning from hunting and gathering to early agriculture and social organization. The burial of the stone circle was not a sign of natural decline, but the result of a significant cultural or religious shift. New beliefs may have forced the community to conceal or abandon monuments linked to earlier practices. Or perhaps the builders themselves deliberately buried the site to mark a profound transition in faith and social order. The arrival of Christianity in Europe later increased the likelihood that such stone monuments were viewed as pagan symbols, leading to their burial to erase the traces of ancient beliefs. This discovery not only opens a new window on the construction skills of Neolithic people in France, but also adds depth to our understanding of prehistoric social and cultural centers across Europe. The silent monoliths deep in the earth, though hidden, still hold the stories of community formation, the desire to master nature, and the creation of sacred spaces by humanity's earliest societies. The theory that humans are ancient artificial intelligence. Within research into the origin and nature of human consciousness, a controversial hypothesis has emerged, posing the question, could human consciousness be the outcome of a biological evolution process that mimics artificial intelligence? According to this theory, every human cognitive function, emotion, and creative capacity is in fact the product of an immensely complex information processing system, with DNA serving as a multi-dimensional data storage, much like the big data foundation of today's artificial intelligence systems. In the biological structure of humans, every cell acts as a processing unit, directed by genetic code sequences. The coordination of billions of cells, along with the neural signal network, forms a self-organizing, self-sustaining system capable of adaptation, learning, and evolution over time. Consciousness, from this perspective, is not an immaterial entity, but the result of information processing and synthesis at the biological level, akin to an operating system. AI developed on an organic foundation. A central argument of this hypothesis is that it explains the leaps in human evolution. Sudden changes in cognition, language, technology, or social organization can be seen as the result of activation or updates to evolutionary algorithms in this biological AI system. Genetic mutations or environmental impacts act as trigger signals, helping the biological system adapt and develop. This theory also points to many parallels between the structure of the human brain and artificial neural networks in modern AI technology. The way signals are transmitted, data is distributed, and the brain self-optimizes reflects principles now being used in artificial intelligence. The difference is that the human system is built on organic material, with millions of years of evolution, while artificial AI is still in its infancy. Looking back at history, the sudden appearance of civilizations, the creation of technology, and the development of abstract thought in Homo sapiens remain unanswered mysteries. If consciousness is truly the product of an ancient biological AI, it stands as evidence of life's unlimited capacity for adaptation and self-development on Earth. While the theory remains highly debated, it opens new avenues for unraveling the origin and nature of human intelligence and challenges all traditional definitions of life, evolution, and consciousness. Kabbalah wisdom and the Book of Abraham of Worms. In the history of Western mystical traditions, the Book of Abramelin, composed by Abraham of Worms, holds a special place not only as a manual for magical practice, but also as a record of the interplay between Jewish thought and European secret societies from the Middle Ages to the Renaissance. Abraham documented his journey to learn Kabbalah, meeting many mystics and sages throughout Europe and North Africa, most notably a mysterious hermit in Egypt named Abramelin. The book's core content centers on the secrets of Kabbalah, a Jewish mystical school focused on interacting with supernatural forces and the search for essential knowledge through rigorous rituals. Abraham describes in detail the Abramelin operation, a series of months-long practices aimed at connecting with one's personal guardian angel. Those who succeed are believed to gain divine wisdom and the power to control spirits and influence reality. Beyond the rituals, the book presents matrices of words and magic formulas based on combinations of sacred letters and language. These are both symbolic and serve as practical tools to create mystical effects in real life. The influence of the Book of Abramelin spread beyond the Jewish community into Western secret orders like the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn and many modern magical schools. These groups consider the book foundational for theory and practice key to personal development, communication with the metaphysical world, and understanding the nature of unseen forces in the universe. Over the centuries, the Book of Abramelin helped shape the system of Western magic and stands as a testament to the effort to connect ancient wisdom with humanity's desire to explore its inner power throughout the history of religion and the occult. The history of unusual figures and phenomena. Across civilizations, human history has always included figures and occurrences that defy conventional norms, many of which have become lasting symbols of strangeness or ongoing debate. In the records of medieval Europe, one name stands out: Peter Stump, a German farmer accused of being a cannibalistic sorcerer. The tales surrounding Peter Stump are intertwined with the unstable period following the Peasant Wars, where many believed he performed mysterious rituals and committed crimes far beyond social standards. The investigation and execution of Stump left a deep psychological scar on the community, fueling fear of phenomena that science at the time could not explain. Further north, Viking mythology preserves the legend of Sigurd Snake in the Eye, said to have been born with a strange mark in his eye. Sigurd's story blends myth and folk belief, reflecting how the Norse people shaped heroic figures and directly linked them to societal upheaval. While not all details can be historically verified, the image of Sigurd's snake in the eye became a symbol of dynastic origins and served as a thread connecting conquest legends and the expansion of Viking influence across Europe. In the history of the Americas, the role of the Viking woman Gudrid Thorbjarnardottir is distinctly portrayed in Icelandic sagas. Gudrid not only reached Greenland, but also led expeditions across the sea to North America, to the land the Norse called Vinland. The Epic of Gudrid embodies the pioneering spirit, adaptability, and crucial role of women in transoceanic settlement journeys. Gudrid's presence in these ancient records stands as evidence of her breaking through traditional boundaries and expanding the known world centuries before Columbus. Beyond legendary and historical characters, the subterranean engineering works of ancient Rome continue to astonish modern archaeologists. The underground aqueduct systems, especially those in the Posillipo region, were built with advanced technology, bringing clean water to the luxurious villas of the Roman elite. Excavations and analysis show that the ancient Romans not only mastered construction techniques, but also had a keen understanding of geology and social organization. Ceramic pipes ran beneath cities, transporting water over dozens of miles from distant sources, creating resilient infrastructure that served public health and daily life for centuries. Taken together, these extraordinary individuals and marvels of engineering reflect not only the rich imagination of each era, but also the adaptability and innovation that laid the foundation for the development of social sciences. Every detail, whether a folk legend or a buried archaeological site, acts as a crucial link connecting the past with the present, raising new questions for modern science as it seeks to decode the story of humankind. Debates over the origins of phenomena, artifacts, and anomalous objects. Scientific debates about the origins of mysterious phenomena and artifacts have always drawn attention across fields from archaeology to physics and astronomy. A prominent example is the Baltic Sea anomaly, a strange structure detected by sonar deep beneath the sea, resembling an artificial object. This has sparked numerous theories, from it being a crashed spacecraft to an extraterrestrial artifact. However, most geologists maintain it is simply a natural product, formed by long geological processes in the cold waters of northern Europe. To this day, there is no physical evidence supporting the hypothesis of an artificial or alien origin. In Romania, the appearance of the 3 Tartaria tablets inscribed with strange symbols remains a major archaeological mystery. These marks have not yet been fully deciphered and could represent the oldest script in Europe, perhaps developed independently of major civilizations like Mesopotamia or Egypt. Determining the age and meaning of the Tartaria tablets continues to challenge researchers using advanced techniques such as radiocarbon dating and comparative linguistics. So far, there is no definitive conclusion about the true nature or purpose of these stone plaques. In physics, the concept of ether was once considered the medium through which light traveled in space, and was even proposed to explain gravity. From Aristotle to scientists like Maxwell and Lorentz, ether played a central role in many models of the universe. However, with the advent of relativity, modern physics replaced ether with new theories. Still, the true nature of the cosmos remains unresolved, and new ideas like quantum fields and dark matter are still being explored to explain the workings of the universe. Not only rooted in the distant past, modern history is also filled with unsolved mysteries, such as the missing papers of Nikola Tesla. When Tesla died, the US government seized all his documents and research drawings. Today, only a small portion of these materials has been made public, while the rest remain unknown. This has fueled speculation about groundbreaking technologies, including wireless power transmission or wave weapons. The secrecy surrounding these materials has only added to the mystique of Tesla and inspired debate about the existence of inventions far ahead of our time. In archaeology, the hypothesis of the lost city of Z in the Amazon and its possible connection to Atlantis remains as compelling as ever. Stories abound of a forgotten city, with paved roads and monumental structures, deep in the South American jungle. Some researchers have speculated that survivors from Atlantis, after a prehistoric catastrophe, crossed the ocean to South America and built this city. Yet, all stratigraphic surveys and comparisons with ancient texts have so far failed to establish any clear link between these two civilizations. The remaining evidence rests mostly on legend or unverified reports from explorers. These phenomena, artifacts, and theories underscore the limits of modern knowledge in uncovering human history and the nature of the universe. For this reason, fields from archaeology to physics and computer science are collaborating more closely to verify and test new hypotheses. The constant process of cross-referencing evidence and experimental checking helps gradually expand our understanding of history and the cosmos, while inspiring future generations to continue unraveling the mysteries that still await explanation. Ultra-durable thread in the Bronze Age. During the Bronze Age, one of the most decisive technological breakthroughs was the development of splicing, the technique of separating and joining fibers. This marked a transition from simple spinning methods to a much more advanced approach to processing materials. Rather than spinning a single strand from a mass of fiber, Bronze Age artisans divided the raw material into smaller bundles, then separated and rejoined segments to create longer threads with superior mechanical strength. Splicing enabled the production of thread and fabric that were not only tough and durable, but far more resistant to wear than earlier forms. This achievement improved not only clothing but also impacted many other sectors of ancient society. Most notably, ultra-strong thread allowed for the construction of ocean-going ships and the manufacture of large-scale fishing nets, anchor ropes in building, and other industries requiring high-load materials. The strong development of fiber and textile technology empowered Bronze Age peoples to increase production efficiency, creating broader trade networks than ever before. They could build larger ships, expand maritime commerce, and connect distant civilizations. This facilitated the rapid spread of physical goods and creative ideas, accelerating urbanization and the emergence of new centers of power along major trade routes. Modern research on textile artifacts from Europe shows that splicing appeared in multiple regions at the same time, reflecting an extraordinary rate of technological diffusion in this era. Moreover, the technique is closely linked with other inventions, such as the spinning wheel and sophisticated hand-loom tools, demonstrating the integration of diverse technical knowledge within a single society. From the perspective of scientific history, Bronze Age ultra-durable thread was not merely a practical necessity, but a sign of creative thinking in overcoming life's challenges. The splicing technique is a testament to the parallel evolution of material technology and social systems, fostering the rise of specialized economies and lasting transcontinental connections. This foundation set a new standard for materials and paved the way for future technical revolutions in the ongoing history of humankind. Strange signals and vibrating ice. In Antarctica, scientists have recorded a remarkable phenomenon. Low-frequency sound waves travel through the atmosphere above the Ross Ice Shelf. Unlike short-term disturbances, these waves are continuous, forming a kind of music that only specialized equipment can detect. Initially, many theories were proposed to explain the origin of these waves, but modern geophysical analysis has determined that they result from the constant vibrations of the ice under the influence of strong winds and shifting air pressure, combined with the impact of ocean waves striking the edge of the ice shelf. As the Antarctic wind sweeps across the surface, it creates micro-vibrations that pass through the thick layers of ice. Seismic waves emerge when changes in pressure combine with subglacial flows, causing the entire ice mass to resonate and emit sound signals into the frigid atmosphere. During blizzards or periods of intense climate change, the amplitude of these waves increases noticeably, recording even the deepest shifts within the ice. By analyzing these signals, Scientists can determine the stability or instability of the Ross Ice Shelf, one of the largest ice structures on Earth. If the ice vibrates strongly at unusual frequencies, this can serve as an early warning of cracking, which may affect global sea levels. Conversely, steady waves indicate that the Antarctic ecosystem is maintaining its balance, with cold flows and air masses still in place to regulate the southern hemisphere's climate. With the help of mathematical models and seismic sensors, researchers can not only hear the song of the eternal ice but also decipher the physical mechanisms inside. These sounds become early indicators of any changes in the ice system, helping to identify risks to the oceans and the global climate. In an era when climate change poses immense challenges, even the smallest signals from the far south act as crucial alarms for the entire planet. If you found these mysterious stories intriguing, please leave your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you won't miss any of our upcoming discoveries. We look forward to seeing you in the next video.